Good evening and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning into CNN News 18. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Kritsween Walia. Well, viewers, the hate against the Hindu community in Bangladesh is only becoming more evident by the day. Though there has been perpetual rise in violence against Hindus in the neighboring country for decades now, the intensity and frequency of these violent acts has increased manifold under the interim Yunus government in Bangladesh. The caretaker government of Bangladesh was perhaps hoping that the voice of the Hindu minorities will be suppressed with the arrest of ISKCON priest Chinmoy Krishna Das, but turns out that it's headed in the opposite direction. The arrest has only emboldened the fight that was being led by Chinmoy Krishna Das. Viewers, the Hindu priest was, remember, arrested on Monday on sedition charges, and his followers claim that these are malicious efforts to suppress the concerns of hate crimes against Hindus that were being raised by the Hindu priest through his endless rallies in Bangladesh. In fact, the Hindu leader's arrest also led to massive protests outside the local court in Dhaka yesterday, which soon turned violent and led to the death of a lawyer. The Hindu protesters, in fact, allege police brutality. They say the protests staged by them demanding the release of Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu were peaceful in nature, and yet they were at the receiving end of police brutality, in addition to the atrocities committed by a radical Islamist mob. But this, remember, isn't the start or the end of the tales of horror for the minorities in Bangladesh. Hindus, in fact, have been under attack in the country since Sheikh Hasina's ouster. They've been hounded, targeted and brutalized, their houses vandalized and charred. The minorities in Bangladesh are sounding an SOS. Concerns are mounting over their safety and security. But the interim government of Muhammad Yunus has turned a blind eye. And after the arrest of the Hindu monk, the latest in the list of unwarranted action has been a demand which is ban ISKCON in Bangladesh. So let's tell you about this latest demand that's come in. ISKCON, or the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is a spiritual organization based on the principles of Vedas that promote teachings of Lord Krishna. But in the affidavit which has been filed in Bangladesh High Court, the Yunus government Attorney General has called it a religious fundamentalist organization. The ISKCON, remember, has temples, centers, communities across the globe, and its members often perform devotional service. But the Yunus government claims that the organization is trying to destabilize the country and further worsen its already worrying situation. But what the Yunus government just refuses to look at is the pinnacle of charitable work under its umbrella. We're talking about ISKCON here, including distribution of food to the needy through its Food for Life program. But this doesn't matter to the Yunus government, it seems, because for them ISKCON is trying to create a law and order situation in the country. And while the West has taken a convenient route of silence so far, India won't keep quiet. India, in fact, has raised the concern over safety of minorities with Bangladesh. But Bangladesh's response, viewers, has raised concerns here in India. The Ministry of External Affairs in India has called the charges leveled against the Hindu monk Chinmoy Prabhu unjustified. That's the allegation that came in from India. But the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bangladesh, in its replies, tried to clarify its action, saying that the arrest has been misunderstood by some. Further, blindsided to the atrocities unfolding against the Hindus in their country, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh has said, but all religions are being protected by the Yunus government. They say equality for all is what we believe in. When India raised the issue of minorities, is houses being looted, vandalized and even being set ablaze, which, remember, has been a frequent affair in Bangladesh, the Bangladesh government replied that the majority and all of minorities in the country are being treated alike. But with attacks on Hindus on the rise, the spotlight is now on Yunus government's doublespeak. Let's take you through the numerous instances. For one, the very arrest of the Hindu spiritual leader Chinmoy Prabhu, his bail being denied twice, and then the 10-day remand in custody. It sparked unrest across the country, with Hindus uniting in the fight. But Muhammad Yunus, who issued a statement condemning the death of the lawyer, urging calm, did not even mention the action against the Hindu monk in his address. There has been no condemnation by Muhammad Yunus and his government whatsoever, not even the hounding of minorities and targeted attacks on Hindus. There has been strong enough a reason to invoke condemnation from Yunus as yet. So all of these instances, though, have been seen in the past. There's pin drop silence on part of his administration. Following Sheikh Hasina's ouster, 69 places of worship have been attacked and that too only in a span of 15 days. But the Yunus government's advisor, Naid Islam, is now termed ISKCON supporters as terrorists instead. And despite more than 2,000 incidents of communal violence being reported from across the country, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bangladesh, in its reply to India, hasn't once mentioned attacks on the minorities, let alone condemnation. But there was a mention and condemnation too, not for the Hindus coming under attack, but for the lawyer who lost his life outside the court in the mob violence. Bangladesh's doublespeak on Hindu atrocities hence stands completely exposed. And the question is, will the Yunus government at least act now? So we'll take that up with our guests in just a bit, with this doublespeak on part of the Bangladesh government exposed. But let's listen in to what's happened so far. Let's quickly open this up with our guest joining us this evening. We have Shoaib Chaudhry, editor Blitz, which is a Bangladeshi newspaper, with us this evening, along with Arun Anand, columnist, joining us live on the broadcast. Mr. Shoaib Chaudhry, my first question is to you, since so many questions are being raised with regards to the approach that the Yunus government has taken, the caretaker government in Bangladesh. Doesn't it clearly reek of doublespeak? You know, concerned about everything that's going on in Bangladesh, including the lawyer who unfortunately lost his life, you know, while those protests were underway and all that ensued. But pin drop silence when it comes to atrocities against Hindu community members?
Thank you very much. Before we come to this point, I'd like to explain to you that the case, the so-called sedition case against Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu, is for disrespecting the national flag of Bangladesh. That's what they call. And this sedition case has not been filed by the government. It was filed by a BNP leader, and who was also again expelled from his party for filing this case. So when they are bringing these charges of sedition against Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu for disrespecting the flag, national flag, they are not saying anything when the members of Islam, their public calling
Mr. Chaudhry, are you telling me the proceedings against Chinmoy Krishna Das are being carried out without the due permission of the caretaker government?
No, let me finish my point. So now they are remaining silent when the Al-Qaeda and Islamic State flags are being waved publicly on the street. So this Yunus regime, Islamic revolutionary, they call it revolutionary regime, they are absolutely against Hindus and India. And it is not only an attack on Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu, it's an attack on Hindus. And now they are saying ISKCON, because this is not ISKCON. ISKCON is symbolic. They are actually attacking Hindus and they are attacking India. And this is their agenda of Islamizing Bangladesh, Talibanizing Bangladesh by spreading and harboring anti-India sentiment and anti-Hindu sentiment. And Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu is a victim of the vicious agenda of Yunus regime.
Okay, you're saying this is, you know, nothing against Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu personally. This is an attempt to silence, suppress the voices of the Hindu community members, and I'm in agreement to that. We're all perhaps in agreement to that. But Mr. Chaudhry, the only concern here is you're saying that this case was first filed by a BNP leader who's been expelled, so on and so forth. But Mr. Chinmoy Prabhu has not found any relief from the courts. In fact, there are several serious allegations being leveled that Hindu community members are not only increasingly being jailed for voicing their concerns, but they're also being targeted inside jails.
Because they are afraid when the Hindu voice is waking up in Bangladesh under the leadership of Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu.
So this is not just the BNP, this is the Yunus administration as well.
BNP is a part of Yunus.
Yes.
BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami, they all are part of Yunus regime. So BNP is playing the card, Yunus is using the card. So it's all together, because this, you cannot call a government in Bangladesh. It's not a government, it's a kind of the club of anarchism. This is all Islamized and Talibanized individuals, Yunus himself, and they are playing the card of against the religious minorities, Hindus. And when you say BNP, Jamaat, Yunus, these are all same
Yes.
nexus.
In fact, ever since the Jamaat was let free, we've seen an increase in the spate of attacks against the Hindu community members in Bangladesh, and I think all of
Even
us here are in agreement to
even
that. Mr. Chaudhary, I'll come back to you in just a bit. I do have follow-up questions, but allow me to quickly introduce Rohan Gupta, spokesperson of the BJP, and Manju Seth, former diplomat, who's also joining us on the broadcast. Thank you for speaking to us, the both of you. To Arun Anand, before that, Mr. Anand, should India be worried, because these are very serious concerns India has raised at the highest level? The MEA coming out with a response, and we just read it out for our viewers, right? The manner in which the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bangladesh has responded.
I think India should be worried and deeply concerned about it, but unfortunately, India can raise this issue at the highest level, but its options are limited because these things are happening within Bangladesh. No, and they have already objected to that. But I just want to bring in another point. No, this is not a new problem. This is not a problem. The violence against Hindus is not a problem which is rooted only in the Yunus, which has come up only during the Yunus regime. Yes, of course, it has gone up to the new level. And you have to see that it is a large part, it started immediately after Bangladesh was formed. In fact, if you see, the Rashtriya Samsevak Sangh had passed a resolution in 1978 condemning the atrocities on Hindus in Bangladesh. And since then, it has been a continuous phenomena, and Jamaat-e-Islami was leading from the front basically to target Hindus. Now, this anti-Hindu or animosity against Hindus has got deeply rooted in a section of society in Bangladesh, primarily because of Jamaat-e-Islami. Sheikh Hasina had banned Jamaat-e-Islami, and that led to to some sort of kind of de-escalation of violence against Hindus. But after this interim government has come, so Jamaat-e-Islami is an integral part of, and now it is the resurgence of
Yeah.
Jamaat-e-Islami and the radical Islam. So it's a larger issue basically, which is going to affect the Indian subcontinent.
Okay, and Manju said, is there a fear that Yunus loyalists coupled with some of these extremists in Bangladesh who are running this wave of terror, they're going to slowly turn Bangladesh into a stronghold of extremism? And since this is a neighboring nation diplomatically as well, it's very concerning for us.
Of course, absolutely well put. It's a cause for great concern for India. The way is the Islamic elements, the radical Islamic elements, if you put it that way,
Yeah.
have got the upper hand, and the Jamaat-e-Islami, the ban has been lifted. And some of their declared terrorists have been released, and they have elements of this or members of this organization in the interim government as well. And the fact that they are able to dictate their terms to the Yunus government is again a cause for concern for us. We can see that how they seem to be orchestrating all this anti-Hindu and anti-minority kind of action that is taking place, where it seems mainly the Hindus are being targeted, as we saw in the case of the arrest of the monk. And they have, I think they feel threatened also by what is happening, that he was able to, gather so many people for demonstrating against the government to stop atrocities against the minorities. But the Yunus government, interim government, somehow has been in denial. Every time India has expressed concern, they've been saying, no, this is all fictitious. Nothing of the kind is happening. So I think this is a big cause for concern. When things are happening and they're in denial, then naturally no action will be taken.
And,
I think,
and the standard response is going to be, this is our internal affair. Like any other country comes out to say that we don't need no advice from you. That's what Bangladesh is also going to reiterate, especially given that this is just an interim government. It's a caretaker government that's at the helm of affairs. Rohan Gupta, in that sense, it's incumbent upon the central government to really come out with a firm response, because there is a feeling one gets from the Hindu community in Bangladesh that we should not be left alone. We should not be, left to fight for our cause all by ourselves, because nobody here in Bangladesh is listening to us. So with the MEA coming out with a firm response, but the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bangladesh turning it down, saying that, this is a false representation, that we want to treat everyone, majority, minority alike. What does India do next? What's the plan in place?
I will completely agree with your contention, and every Indian should be concerned about the development. It's not only about India, it's about the whole of South Asia, and maybe more on a humanitarian ground. The the whole minority section of the society in Bangladesh is totally, their voice is being crushed. So I think government is taking serious note, and I think in past also serious contention was raised. And again, government of India is closely watching the developments, and every Indian, whether it is in a ruling party or opposition party, anybody who are concerned about the interest or the rights of minorities, they should come openly and speak about the minority rights in Bangladesh also. It should not be that only in India they speak about the minority rights and something outside India they keep quiet. No. So I think it's a very serious issue. All of us are watching very closely. And
No, but I think
if the
today we should be in
situation,
agreement, Rohan, that
absolutely.
we've seen people across political parties, across party lines come out to condemn what's happening against the Hindu community in Bangladesh. We've heard it from the TMC, we've heard it from the Congress, everybody absolutely condemning, these horrific stories that continue to emerge. But my follow-up question to you, Rohan Gupta, in that case is that since we do share close trade ties with Bangladesh, is there not an alternative approach that the government of the day can go ahead with in
Absolutely.
hurting the interests of Bangladesh economically, because they're not in the best position as is?
See, we know what has happened in Bangladesh, right? That democratic government has been thrown overnight and things are not stabilized there. So obviously, Indian government is watching it very, very closely and definitely do whatever is required to protect the interest of Hindu minorities. They are not going to turn their eyes closed or, not keeping things in track. Obviously, we are watching it very, very closely. And if situation goes out of hand, all the options are open. So obviously, Indian government is taking it very, very strongly. And we are all united into this and we have to be united. It's not question of a particular class. It is question of the humanity. It is question of all the minorities, including Hindus. So I think we have to closely watch and ensure that proper action is taken against current Bangladesh government if they don't follow.
Okay. Mr. Shoaib Chaudhary, is Bangladesh being able to assess this from the Indian perspective? Because I want to read out for our viewers and for you this statement by the MEA, which says, this is the Ministry of External Affairs Bangladesh, which says that Bangladesh is currently importing 1,160 megawatt of power from India, and that's just one aspect. Power is just one aspect. Remember, Bangladesh depends heavily on India for supply of rice, cotton, diesel. The list is endless. So, is Bangladesh not worried about the implications of this at the economic front?
You see, these Islamists, they don't think about consequence. Yesterday, when they sent Krishna Prabhu in the jail, from last night, you must have heard, there is continuous attack on Hindu temples, Hindu homes, Hindu properties from last night. So they are not talking about thinking about consequences. They are only thinking about destruction. And as I said many times, I would like to repeat here again that as Hitler had the final solution to eliminate Jews from Germany, Yunus and his Islamist cronies, they are running the same genocide of Hindus in Bangladesh to turn Bangladesh into a Hindu-prey nation. And this is a complete genocide of Hindus. They are not thinking.
Is this being done for consolidation of votes, counter consolidation of Muslim votes? Because very clearly, and you can perhaps put out the right information for all of us, because there's a lot of information that unfortunately doesn't trickle out of the boundaries of Bangladesh as well. Are probes being initiated when it comes to these kind of attacks against the Hindu community members? Hindu temples that have come under attack, their shops looted, set on fire, homes set on fire. Has any probe been initiated on that front?
And you see, they are not thinking about vote even, because they are thinking about establishing caliphate in Bangladesh. Exactly. They are now changing the constitution. They are actually planning for establishing an Islamic Sharia caliphate in Bangladesh, where there will be no parliament, no election, nothing. So they are not thinking about any consequences. As we have seen in Afghanistan, the way Taliban continued their brutalities and atrocities, same thing is happening in Bangladesh. And if it cannot be stopped, Hindus are going to face extreme cruelty. And I'm sitting in Dhaka, I can on record tell you that from last night, the attacks are continuing. Hindus are being beaten, and on record I can tell that more than 300 Hindu females have been already molested from the day before yesterday until today. So it's a genocide. It's a Yunus final solution to cleanse Hindus from this country and turn Bangladesh into a Hindu-free nation. Please don't think they are thinking about election or vote. They are monsters, Islamist monsters, and they are trying to turn Bangladesh into
But
another
how are they going to run
Afghanistan.
the country, Mr. Chaudhary? Manju said, shouldn't Bangladesh, a country like Bangladesh, be worried about its international reputation? We've seen with the US President-elect Donald Trump already monitoring this very closely. In fact, Indian Americans have been urging him to impose sanctions against Bangladesh. India is also now, on its way to take a very, very firm position. A is international image. B, of course, the economic sanctions it may have to face. Should a country like Bangladesh not be worried about these issues?
I think they should be worried, but they don't appear to be worried because they have their. I understand they have their backers, and it is, and a lot of other countries are standing with them. So I don't think they will be bothered about economic sanctions at the moment, at least. And there doesn't seem to be any, even from all the Western countries and the developed world, at least I haven't read any condemnation of this. And nothing of, so no one is putting any pressure on the Yunus government when Hindus and minorities are being attacked, their human rights. Otherwise, everywhere they talk of human rights, but in this particular case, no one has bothered. No one has bothered to make a statement. And I think, at least I haven't read any. And at the same time, they are trying to, as very rightly said by Mr. Shoaib Chowdhury, they are moving in a direction of a Hindu-free Bangladesh. They are going to amend their constitution, and the idea is to throw all Hindus out, kill them, or ask them to leave, ask them to flee. And I think that is one of the intentions, it looks like, from what is going on in Bangladesh, and no one is saying anything to them. And the people who are attacking, no action is taken against them, but a Hindu community leader or a monk leading a rally, a peaceful rally for a protest, is being arrested. So you see, on some charges or the other. So the whole, from what I've been reading and from what people have said, it does appear very, that China and the US and Pakistan, to a great extent, seem to be players in the background. Seem to be. We don't really have any evidence of that.
Arun, are you in agreement to that? There could be a greater conspiracy here. A, that. B, with regards to the manner in which all of this is being portrayed by the media outlets in Bangladesh, this one-sided biased approach there, the Yunus government out in the open condemning the killing of the lawyer, which, by the way, nobody knows how was he hacked to death, because in a protest-like situation with so many people, with the protesters themselves alleging that, they were being attacked by an Islamist mob, so on and so forth, you don't know what may have happened. So there is a clear biased approach that the media there is also taking.
Absolutely. Sorry.
That was fun. Yeah, Manju, I'll come back to you.
So
Right,
I think what Manjuji was saying, I absolutely agree with that. See, it's why the West is not condemning it. The larger thing is basically it is the US deep state basically which had kind of organized this whole coup, and then China of course came into interplay. And for your viewers, let me share this thing that basically US wanted Bangladesh to be part of their Asia Pacific strategy, which Khalida Jia had refused to follow this thing. So after that, they decided basically that they need to, and US is doing exactly, and the Western world is exactly doing what they had done and in Afghanistan. So you are seeing making of another Afghanistan in Bangladesh. And as Shoaib Chaudhary ji was saying, I absolutely agree with him. They are on the their larger plan is basically with Pakistan also being in play and ISI also being in play. So the whole radical, see, the fine line between the radical elements and the government, the way it got blurred in Afghanistan, Pakistan, the same thing is now happening in Bangladesh, and it will have very, very serious consequences for this whole region.
Yes.
And you are going to see basically Bangladesh becoming another hub of terrorism, though it has already become. It has the largest refugee colony of Rohingyas, which is a hot breeding ground of Islamic terrorists. Massive recruitment from ISIS as well as the ISI of Pakistan is done there. Jaish-e-Mohammed is also present there. A lot of terrorist organizations.
And there's been no end to this kind of chaos. Forget the Jamaat, forget everything else, forget the agenda of the Yunus government. Students have been on the streets. There's been no end to student protests. There's absolute chaos. Like I said, the economy is in tatters. So it's very concerning for Bangladesh before we even talk about what this means for India. But Rohan Gupta, the fact of the matter is that here's a community that's been persecuted for decades altogether in a country like Bangladesh. They have their backs to the wall now. It's a now or never moment for them. In this kind of a situation, we as a country need to step up. So can we expect the government of the day to really take strictest of steps in that direction in days to come?
Obviously, we have to be very, very sensitive, and we cannot allow people who are in ruling party there just to play around with human rights. And we know that situation is very liquid, as all the panelists have said that everybody has different opinion or
But
different
are there
strategy
compulsions we'll have to bow to? Are our hands tied to some extent?
Absolutely not. We are not. This is not the government who will watch just what is happening. We are going to take strictest, strongest action. Just wait and watch. Obviously, because situation is very, very liquid. We have to handle it diplomatically also and strictly on ground. So we are not going to allow them to do or continue whatever is happening, whether it is economically, socially, or whatever way the pressure needs to be created. And they have to understand that India has played major role in whatever they are right now. The bunch of extremists who have taken over the government in undemocratic way.
Okay. Well, the Hindu community members only hoping that these are not empty promises, and they're really looking at India, for some sort of a way out of this problem. But Mr. Chaudhary, to you, the last word, since you're in the best position to understand or tell us what's going on. Tell us a little bit about Chinmoy Prabhudas, and why is it that this man who was holding unending rallies, really he'd become the voice of the Hindu community in Bangladesh. Why is it that the Yunus government is so very irked by his cause?
You see, I'd like to clarify certain things to you. Should Kamala Harris win on November 5th, Yunus would not have done this thing, what he's doing now. Yunus knows that his days are numbered because he is known as a Trump hater. And exactly on 20th November, I have told many television channels that actually Yunus government regime is in life support. So they are trying to do the last part of anarchy to somehow find an exit point, exit truth for them. They are exactly looking for exit truth. This Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu, or the Hindus protesting on the street, these are legitimate. Hindus have been brutally, they have become an extreme brutality since August 5th. Hundreds of Hindu women and children have been molested and raped, and Hindu houses set on fire, Hindus killed. But now, for Yunus, the main problem is January 20th. The time bomb is ticking for him. So now he wants to stay the last part of the anarchy before he and his cronies either flee this country or face the consequences, as honorable panelists already said, that Trump is going to be extremely harsh on Yunus. Extremely harsh. I can, on record, I can say that Trump is going to impose punitive tariffs on Bangladesh. Yunus will come under sanction.
But you've already made it very clear that Yunus loyalists, the Islamist forces there, radical Islamist forces there, are going to be unfazed by that threat. They really don't care right now.
They have become mad dog.
Okay, they have become mad dog. But here's the thing, that we've seen this kind of an attack against the Hindu community members collectively reach an alarming proportion, and that most certainly is worrying not just for the Hindu community in Bangladesh but for all of us here in India as well. So we're tracking that very closely. Thank you, gentlemen, and Manju Seth for joining us this evening. We are into a very short break, viewers. On the other side of a quick break, we take you through the latest announcement that's coming from Eknath Shinde. As far as the chief ministerial race is concerned, he's now left it all up to the BJP top brass. Is he paving the way for Devendra Fadnavis as the next CM? We'll get you all the details. Be right back.